Board of Ed's doing a budget hearing or budget meeting tonight, so I opted not to have fun with that. Jess can attest to those. Those are a lot of fun.
Yeah, you could skip that.
Yeah.
So I'll be presenting an hour on our budget tonight, just so everyone knows.
Oh, perfect. Oh, fantastic.
I plan on giving great detail of the pens and pencils and various other things that we're going to be purchasing, just for you, Scott.
Okay, so we're live on YouTube.
Molly, I'm having trouble getting a copy of the agenda in my, to
What
pop
do you
up.
need?
I need an agenda.
You need an agenda?
Yeah, I have every other document handy, but tonight's agenda.
Do you want me to email it to you?
That would be terrific if you
Sure.
don't mind. It's going to take me a while to find it otherwise. But let's go ahead and call the meeting to order. There's a couple things that we were going to do in the beginning anyway. So Molly, if you don't mind, that would be terrific.
Sure.
So good evening, everybody. We have two new board members with us tonight. And in a few minutes, I'm going to ask us all to do that ritualistic thing of introducing ourselves. And you know what? It's actually been a while since we've done that. So I think it'll be nice for us to do anyway. It'll be interesting to do in a Zoom setting, but we'll do the best we can. Before I do that, though, I wanted to offer just a really brief word of appreciation. And by that, what I mean is we're by our very nature and by our bylaws a diverse group, politically and otherwise, that represent a cross-section of the town, including Madison Youth and Family Services staff, appointed board members, liaisons to other town boards and organizations, community members sometimes, and of course our beloved student representatives. And it's never lost to me the level of genuine concern you all demonstrate for the youth and our community members, and how that always seems to drive our discussions more than any personal views or beliefs might otherwise do. And for that, I thank you, and also for the respectful way in which we always discuss the business of Madison Youth and Family Services, especially when we aren't all in agreement. So it's not lost on me that we have this ability to disagree and to do so respectfully. And I want to thank you all for that. So we have two folks joining us tonight. And the first, well, neither of them are strangers to service for our town. Beth Scudder is no stranger to the board, as she used to be a liaison to us through, if I'm not mistaken, the Parent Representative Council. And in addition, we have Jessica Butler joining us tonight, who used to be on the Board of Education for several years. So two new members, I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves first. And then what I'd like us to do is go around, introduce ourselves. And if when we do that, it would be helpful if we included what our role is. If you remember, I don't, how long you've been associated with the board, and perhaps a couple of seconds of what it is that brought you to the board or has, and when I say the board, I don't just mean the board members, but I mean this board of people that are here today. What's brought you to be part of this this group of people? Let's try and keep everything kind of short. I've already rambled way too long, or we're not going to be out of here on time today. So we're going to try something. I polled my wife and my daughter on the best way to do introductions when you can't just go around the table. And their advice was, I will tell the next person to go, and we'll go that way. We'll see if that works. That does require that I know who's here, and you can already tell that I don't even know where my agenda is. So this is going to be interesting, but we'll do our best.
I emailed you the agenda, David. Did you get it?
That yeah, I'm sure I did. So let's go ahead and start with our two newest members. Beth, if you would please introduce yourself.
Everybody, Beth Scudder. I have 3 kids, 2 at hand, 1 at Polson. I've lived in Madison for about 7.5 years, neighbors with Sarah Snyder, and have been involved with PTOs and other organizations in town, various board roles at my church and for Madison ABC over time. Was on the Youth and Family Services Board as a liaison a couple of years ago, 2 or 3 years ago maybe, and it was a revelation to me after having attended many board meetings for many different worthy organizations over many years. I found this to be the most productive and most impactful group, agency, and the work that was going on in terms of the value that it had for the community in real time. And I remember thinking I couldn't wait to be involved more officially at some point, and here we are. So I work at Women and Family Life Center in Guilford as the program coordinator, and occasionally we have some crossover and cross referrals going on between agencies. So thank you.
Oops, I'm still on mute. I said while I was still on mute. Thank you, Beth. Jessica.
Sure. Jessica Bowler, nice to see everyone and meet everyone. I've lived in Madison for about 13 years. I have 2 kids, one in high school and one at Polson, 8th and 9th grader. And I was very involved in the community from the minute that I moved here, but most recently I was on the Board of Education for 5 years, took an exit from public service for 2 years now, and was recently asked if I was ready to dip my toe back in, and I said, sure. Yes, absolutely. So that's how I found my way back here, and I'm looking forward to joining this board and working with everyone.
Awesome. Thank you, Jessica. I'm going to go around the way you are on my Zoom screen, which will make no sense. This is going to seem totally random to you, but Jake, if you would, please.
Hi, I'm Jake Daniel. I'm the senior rep for the high school and liaison. And yeah, I'll be leaving in June, and then Darien will be taking over for me, and we'll be getting a new member.
Thanks, Jake. Molly?
Hi, I'm Molly. I am the secretary or admin assistant at Madison Youth and Family Services. I've been there for about 1.5 years, and I come to the meetings because it's part of my job. But I've always loved it, and my son used to be one of the student reps too. So,
And an outstanding one at that.
Thanks, David.
See, now nobody knows who's going next. I really love this. Melissa, you're up next. This is like my classroom. This is awesome.
This is fun. My name is Melissa Boletto. I've worked at Youth Services. This is my 15th year. I have 2 kids, both in the high school. One's a junior and one is a freshman. And I just love my job, and I'm happy to be here tonight.
Terrific. Pam.
Hi, I'm Pam Davies. I live in town. I have 2 kids in the school system. Well, one of them graduated. I guess I can't say that anymore. One in 11th grade and one in college. I'm very bad with the years. I've been on the board a number of years, 4, maybe 5. And I work as a clinician at BH Care in Brantford, working with adults with mental health and substance abuse issues. So sometimes our populations do cross. And just very excited about new members. Thanks for joining.
Thanks, Pam, and thanks for sharing what you do outside of the board, because that's one thing I forgot to mention. There's so many people that have some connection back in that's from their professional life. It's great to bring that in as you introduce yourselves. Mr. Zeller.
Hi, I'm Rob Zeller. I've been on the board now for, I don't know. I think it's been at least 5 years, maybe. But I got involved because I have a son in the high school, and I've always been involved in public service. So the board seemed like a real great opportunity to help the kids in the area and the families in town. And I've absolutely enjoyed it. I currently work for the state of Connecticut, and I see the fallout from our current situation on a daily basis. So if I can alleviate any of that in my own community, that's what I'm here to do. So thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Sarah?
Hi, I'm Sarah Snyder. I am been part of the board for 2 years. I have a freshman and a senior girls in Daniel Hand, and I do private practice in Essex and social work.
And let's see, people have moved around on me. This is bad. I am keeping a little checklist just in case. Derek, you're up.
Yeah, hi everybody. I'm Derek Cornwell. I'm the Youth Development Coordinator at Madison Youth and Family Services. I just was looking at the date. I will be here. My 6th anniversary is coming up in just 2 weeks. And I feel like I just got here.
Wow.
And yeah, I was an intern here before that. So I guess 7 years here at Madison Youth and Family Services. I'm at this particular board meeting because we're presenting tonight and I can't wait for it. I love coming to this board meeting and seeing all you guys. So thanks for having us.
Andrea.
Hi, I'm Andrea Aaron, and I think I'm starting my 3rd year on the board. I'm an artist educator, and I've been an art teacher at New London High for many, many years. I have 2 children that are grown and went through the Madison School District, and just love being on this board, and I love working with kids. I'm teaching at Wesley and Potters now, and just really enjoying that as well.
Thanks, Andrea. And I just noticed Jake's comment in the chat. Sorry, Jake, no Jolly Ranchers this year. It's a COVID thing. Now I'm really losing track of where I am. So Peggy, you're up next.
Hi, I'm Peggy Butler. I work at Madison Youth and Family Services, and happy to be here and really very lucky to have the job that I have. Just fits me well and it's a challenge, and I get to work with middle school kids and feel lucky that I get to spend time with those super creative, very emotional, highly charged, a lot of fun kids. So thanks for having me and glad to be here.
Great to have you. Scott? Oh,
Hey,
I'm
gang.
sorry. We have 2 Scotts. Yes, Scott Murphy. Let's go for it. Scott Cochran, you're on deck.
All right, double Scott tonight. So Scott Murphy, Board of Selectmen. I am, I think, in my 6th year being on this board as the liaison to the Board of Selectmen. In my professional life, I work as a talent and human resources strategy consultant, which is a mouthful, for Accenture. And I've been doing that for 28 years. So certainly related to what is done here. And I have 3 kids that have gone through the school system, one of which was actually the liaison to this board at one point, Abby. And I am actually I'm actually infamous on TikTok now. So if anybody wants to look at TikTok, you will now see some serious content.
Wow.
That's almost enough to get me to go to TikTok.
3.5 million followers.
I was going to say, you have a lot of followers.
Just saying.
Wow.
Just
That's not
saying.
kidding around.
Are you
It was pretty
monetized?
impressive.
I was sucker punched into doing it. It was not.
It was fantastic.
Well, look, Mr. Cochran.
All right, so welcome everybody. I'm Scott Cochran. I'm the director of Madison Youth and Family Services. I'm actually on my 17th year of employment with the town, all with Youth and Family Services, and I just passed my 5th anniversary as director. I mean, just straight up, this has always been a dream job for me to be in a position like this. I wasn't sort of born into youth services work. I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I sort of professionally developed as a therapist, and just it came back really to my roots, which, I was involved with youth services programming, particularly with the director of Madison Youth and Family Services back in the 80s as a high schooler, and he sucked me back here as an adult. So always just feel so grateful to have the staff that we have, the people who work very hard in this department, and I think reflects also the people who work very hard on behalf of this town. So, and always grateful to see all of you. This board, it's an advisory board. We take the feedback, the input, your responses, your questions, all very seriously. It matters, and it's I think we have the reputation of being a board where politics means the least. That you're all passionate, doesn't matter whether you're Democrat or Republican, doesn't matter whether you're affiliated or not. When we're having discussions here, very almost without question, we don't get into political disparities. So grateful for that too. So with that, welcome, and welcome to our two new board members.
Thank you, Scott. Darien and Katie, you're on deck.
Hi, I'm Darien Mcmahon. I'm the junior student board rep, so I'm right behind Jake, and I'll be taking his position next year. And me and Jake's job is pretty much to make sure the students' voice is heard and the youth voice is heard.
Loud and clear. You guys are doing a great job with that. Katie?
Okay, I'm Katie Voles. I'm coming up on my 5th year with the PYD. So I work with Melissa, Peg, and Derek, and I love it. I have 3 kids in the school system at Polson, Brown, and Hand. So I'm really happy to be able to be in the environment that my kids are a part of. I feel very, very blessed. And I'm just happy to be here. Nice to see all of you.
Thank you. Art and Kathleen, you're on deck.
Yes, can you hear me?
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm Bart Simons. I've been on the board for approximately 10 years. I grew up in Madison and graduated from Hand in 1972, just a couple of years ago. And I spent a career as a high school history teacher in Clinton and then in Northwest Connecticut for about 35 years. And now in non-COVID times, I substitute teach, and I enjoy hearing about the youth of Madison, and very interested in how the youth of today are doing. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Art. Kathleen?
Thank you, David. Hi, Beth and Jess, and welcome to the board, the Madison Youth and Family Services. We're really happy to have you. And I'm probably the senior person on the board. I think, I hate to say, but I think it's probably 15 years or something, definitely above a dozen years. Wow. So, and I love being on the board. My kids went through the Madison Youth and Family Services, went through all of the different programs. So I was able to see that firsthand. They went through the Madison school system. And I'm committed to being on the board because I'm committed to the sense of community. And it's interesting to connect the dots. David was a soccer coach for my daughter, and my everyone from Madison Youth and Family Services have influenced my children in some way or another. And now they're sort of launched, and it's great to give back. And one day I was sitting across the table from Jake, and I looked at him and I said, I'm pretty sure I taught you swimming lessons at the Aqua Dome, right, Jake? So it's kind of cool to realize that connection. And I also substituted in the Madison school system, but now I work with senior citizens. And so it's nice. I have both ends of the spectrum, and I just can't say enough about this board. I think it's just an amazing group, and they do wonderful things. And Madison Youth and Family Services, led by Scott and everyone else on this call, you guys are rock stars. So thank you for what you do.
Thank you, Kathleen.
Did Jake pass swimming lessons?
You know what? He was a phenomenal swimmer.
Flying colors.
He did not. Yeah, you had all the energy in the world, and you were way above your your age group. So
Such an overachiever,
good job.
Jake.
Can I just
Yeah,
ask a
you were.
question on that? Did he just immediately jump into the deep end of the pool as soon as he approached it?
100%.
Okay.
100%. And
Say
I
no
just
more.
remember, yep. He was no problem. Underwater at 3, swimming, no problem. So
I thought I saw the word
right?
activist on the bottom.
Way to use the swimming analogy, Cochran. Like that. Well done.
Jeremy, are you there? Can you hear us?
Hello,
You can.
everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right. Hello. My name's Jeremy York. I'm a sergeant with the Madison Police Department. I'm the liaison between the board and the police department. I've been an officer for 11 years. I've been a liaison now for several years. I've lost count, at least 3 or 4. And I live in Madison. I have a 6-year-old in first grade at Ryerson, and I have a 2-year-old that hopefully will be going to TCLC in the fall. So I like being a member of this liaison, and I hope I keep on doing it in the future. So,
well, we feel the same way, Jeremy. So thank you.
Thank you.
Kristen, I don't know if it's safe for you to come off of mute. I'm going to look and see if you do. If you don't,
No, I can. I can.
Okay, go for it, Kristen. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Hi, Kristen. I have 3 children in the Madison school system right now, a junior, a freshman, and a boy in 5th grade at Brown. I've been on the board going on 3 years. I am currently secretary. I wanted to be a part of the board because the bulk of my career was working in mental health and addiction services, although I'm not doing that currently. And I'm happy to be a part of it.
Awesome. Thank you. Andrea and Pamela, I don't know if you both mentioned that you were on the executive committee. Did you? So they are, Andrea is our treasurer, and she'll be talking to you in a couple of seconds. Pam is the, I don't know if it's assistant or vice chair, but she'll be filling in when I'm not here. And then there's me. I think I've heard from everybody else at this point. I'm David Buller. I am the chair of this by default. Let's go that way. And I am a teacher in the high school, so I have a dual role as a board member and also liaison to the schools. And my 3 children benefited in some way or another. And one of my children practically lived in Madison Youth and Family Services programs when she was in high school. And that's how I became aware of this. I've been on the board for an indeterminate number of years, somewhere less than Kathleen and greater than Andrea, somewhere in that mathematical time frame. That's all I have for you in terms of that. The introductions, they are an incredibly important part for us to take because we kind of lose track of who's who when you're on the board, especially when we're new. So only board members vote, but everybody that's here does participate, and everybody's contributions are incredibly important to Scott getting the voice he needs from the community. So I do appreciate everybody doing that for us. All right, at this point, I'm looking for citizens' comments. Molly. I don't see anybody here, but I can't see everybody.
Right. No citizens comments, no citizens.
Okay, then I'll ask that we approve the minutes from the December 8th meeting. We need a motion to approve the minutes. Rob, second. Kathleen, any discussion? All in favor, raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions?
I assume as a new member, I need to abstain.
Yeah, I would. So we have Jess and Beth abstaining. Jessica, I'm sorry, my daughter's name is Jess.
It's okay.
As Jessica
I go by
knows.
both. It's not disrespectful. I'm fine with it.
I appreciate that.
Yep.
My daughter hasn't been Jessica since she was a little girl. So
We've known each other a long time. You can
have.
call me Jess.
I will do that. So I think we had all in favor, 2 abstentions, no opposed. And Molly, we're up to correspondence.
So we did have a bunch of thank you notes. I don't know, Scott, do you have the pile?
So I have a pile, and I'll just, if it's okay, just would read a couple of them that are kind of reflective of, I'd say there's about 12 cards here. And of course it's Christmas season, so people are in the mode of sending Christmas cards. A couple that kind of reflect some gratitude, and I won't share who they're from. Dear Crystal, who is our social services coordinator, thank you so much for all the wonderful gift cards. I'm overwhelmed with emotion for such kind and generous things that you do for my daughter and myself. Your generosity has helped us so much in this very difficult time with much gratitude and sincerity. And one more, again, Crystal and the crew at Youth and Family Services. Thank you for everything, and because of your efforts to this, thanks to your efforts to this organization has saved me multiple times, and we are thankful for all that you've done for us. Be well, safe, and healthy. So a lot like that. A few just Merry Christmas, but we did provide quite a bit of assistance this month. Our social services, by the way, our numbers of people assisted are up 63%. Where they were this time last year, and that's not a surprise in a pandemic. We will be having Crystal and Catherine representing our community sports division do an update, their staff presentation. I think they're up next month or the month after, but they'll be getting into a little bit more detail on that. That's it for correspondence.
Thanks, Scott and Molly. We move on to the treasurer's report. Andrea, we have several motions for you to walk us through.
Yeah, this is amazing. First of all, due to a donation, we now have $140 in the Sunshine Fund. And if you would like to contribute, place an envelope with money in it, with your name on it, and you can put it into the lock box, which is on the right near the door of the Madison Youth and Family Service Building. I'd like to make a motion to approve the donation of $500 in Walmart gift cards from Clarity. To approve.
Can I make a question? Make a question. Can I ask a question about procedure? Can we package the donations together into a single motion and handle them that way? Let's keep one out though. Let's make a motion. I'd like a motion to approve all the donations except for the $30,000 neighbor to neighbor one. Did somebody make a motion?
Make a motion.
Okay, Sarah did, and a second? Robert did. Any discussion? And Andrea, I'm sorry for cutting you off on that. I just, no discussion. All in favor? All opposed? Okay, so it's unanimous. And then, Andrea, if you don't, go ahead.
To make a motion, move a motion to approve a donation of $30,000 from Neighbor to Neighbor for the COVID relief program.
Do I have a motion? It's Beth. And a second?
Second.
Kathleen, any discussion?
Scott, is this the same donation that we approved this morning?
Yes. Yep.
I mean, that's an incredibly generous donation, and for that to still be happening this far into this this pandemic is pretty remarkable.
Unbelievable.
Is there any limits or restrictions on where you spend it, Scott?
So this $30,000 is earmarked for our COVID impact program. And so that's a program specifically intended to support people that have been impacted by COVID in some way. It's a program that we've been running since last April, 100% funded through donations from Neighbor to Neighbor, as well as we had an initial donation from Guilford Savings Bank. I think that was for $20,000. So to date, I can tell you, so this program in total, as it stands, is funded at $100,000. We've received continuing donations to keep the program going from neighbor to neighbor, and have stayed in, regular communication with them as to how we're doing and how it's, the types of applications that are coming in and the assistance we're providing. And so they know exactly what we're doing and how we're doing it. So to date, we've received 181 applications for that program. And these applications, by the way, are monthly. So somebody can apply for assistance, and if they're eligible for a family, they're eligible up to $500 in direct assistance, and they can reapply. So there's a 30-day period in between eligibility for people to reapply, and we do not have a max amount of times that people can apply. So we have had people that have used this multiple times. So to date, we've had 181 applications for assistance, and that covers 70 different households. And we have provided through this program $78,600 worth of assistance direct to community members. You can't say thanks enough to neighbor, and to reflect something that our first select woman mentioned this morning. It really reflects the willingness, the generosity of the Madison community. So the donations really are collected from people here at home by the Madison Foundation and Neighbor to Neighbor. So really, this is just a flow of support from the Madison community that we really just put right back, back into the community, to the families that need it most right now. So, and overwhelmed just by the list of other donations that we've received. So that includes from the Madison Teachers Union, the Madison JCs, from Clarity. I want to make sure that I get them all.
Right. I was going to mention that as well.
Yeah.
Please take a second to look over the agenda, and we don't want to sell anybody short just because we didn't read their name, because it's wonderfully generous what the different members of the community have donated.
Yep. And these are all donations that really support our social services division. So they are accounted for here. We keep track of them. So if somebody can't utilize the food bank, or they're struggling, they can't make ends meet, and our eligibility is around the state requirement for energy assistance. So anybody who's struggling financially and they meet that threshold, in some cases they may not meet the financial threshold, but they're in some other kind of some type of crisis in which they can't make ends meet, and we will help them as well. So very lucky for us to be doing these kinds of programs in this community. It makes it just makes everything possible.
Any additional discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Any abstentions? All right, so we're We're anonymous. We're unanimous on that. I saw the anonymous donation as well. So, and at this point, Scott, we're up to staff presentations.
So for this month, we have our Positive Youth Development crew. And so just for people to understand, we have like 3 different subdivisions under Youth and Family Services, our primary subdivisions, our Positive Youth Development, our community support, and our clinical services. And what we've done in recent years is sort of grouped our subdivisions together so they can come before the board and have a bigger conversation around what they're doing, give you guys updates. But it also gives you opportunities to ask questions, provide feedback from your own experiences. So Melissa Boletto is our assistant director who heads up our Positive Youth Development crew. And they're all here. So we'll leave it to them to present on their programs and take it from there.
Thank you. So we are actually going to start with a little energizer that Katie and I think Peg will lead, and then I will take it over from there. So Katie?
Okay, we're not going to take a lot of time with this, but just to show you guys, given the amount of online and virtual groups that we have had, which we'll get to in a minute, we wanted to show you guys that we try and shake it up a little bit and give these students and the youth that we work with a little bit of life to our calls. So with that, and we just did quick introductions, but I would like for everybody to quickly change their names. So if you don't know how to do this, what you need to do is on your screen, on your name in Zoom, if you scroll over your square or your rectangle, you see the 3 dots. And one of the options, if that drop box pops up, is rename. You keep your first name and last name. I would love to see everybody change it to something that they're very, very grateful for after throughout this past time. So I'm going to change mine to Katie Maple, my dog. Okay, so if everybody can quickly do that, don't think too much about it. You can change your name right back. But once we have everybody, we're going to do a quick, I'm seeing some of your things now too. I like it. So again, just a quick instruction if you haven't found it yet. If you take your mouse and scroll over your screen, you see the 3 dots at the top. The only thing I'm realizing is that I can't see everybody's full last name, but if you see the 3 dots and it says rename, in some cases you might see it under participants. If you click on participants and you go to your name, you actually have the option, actually now it's open, you have the option to change your name that way too. And if you don't get to it, that's okay. What we're gonna do is play a little game, Where in the World. If you remember the game from the 90s, Where in the World is Matt Lauer? We're going to do this on Zoom. So I'm going to call out everybody's name. Wherever that person is on your screen, you're going to use your finger to point to them. This will take less than a minute, I think. I swear, Scott, I told Melissa I'll keep this to a minute. So, all right. So if, for instance, if I say Melissa and she's above me, I'm going to point, but we'll just see everybody is on different parts. So I'm just going to start with my screen. So point to, where in the world is Molly walking everywhere, I think. Okay, where in the world is Melissa Netflix? Where in the world is Robert Puppy something that I can't see the whole name? Where in the world is Scott Laurie Cochran? I don't know what the rest of it is. Where in the world is Andrea Pham for Pham? You could do diagonal too. Where in the world is David, my family? Yay. Where in the world is Sarah, family, and see, I don't see the rest of it, I'm sorry. Where in the world is Jake, my voice? Yay. Where in the world is Pam, my family? Down, sorry. And Jessica, slow down. Yes, let's slow down. Somebody move to me. Where in the world is Derek for my mon? Oh, you're muted. I want to know what these are.
My 4-month-old.
My 4-month-old for baby Zoe.
Yes.
For baby Zoe. Where in the world is Peggy family? And Beth Trails. Wave Beth. Where in the world is Darien Tobias? And Scott, COVID new something.
Kitty.
What?
Kitty.
Oh, Kitty. And Kathleen vaccines. And Art, chill out. Sarah Snyder. Where in the world is Sarah Snyder? And how about Jeremy, my family? I think that's what that says. And finally, Kristen and health. Amen. Thank you. That's it. Thank you guys. Thanks. I hope I didn't take too long. But now we know what everyone's thankful for.
That was
Thank
great,
you.
Katie. Thanks.
A lot of people were family and health. I'm like, oh, I love Netflix. Oh, the little things that get you by, right?
Yep.
Okay, so just a little bit background. So a year ago, none of us could have ever imagined how drastically our lives would change, both personally and professionally. Last March, we had to adjust and entirely rethink on how we do our jobs. How were we going to continue connecting with the students, especially at a time when they were feeling disconnected from friends, teachers, and life, just how they knew it. So we began to realize that the work we do was much more important than ever, not only for the students' social, emotional well-being, but also for ours. I am so proud to say that we didn't skip a beat. That is because I get to work with a dedicated and creative group of people, and I'm very lucky for that. If I recall correctly, we only missed 1 week of meeting with our groups last spring, as we had to learn what Zoom was and to adapt all of our programs to effectively work remotely, which I have to say, we have done an amazing job. And we are not a group of people that really like to give ourselves kudos or pat ourselves on the back, but I think now's the time for us to do that. So good job, Derek, Peg, and Katie. You guys are amazing. So a little background on how we did that with some of our programs. Peer helpers, typically the training is a weekend away. Obviously, we couldn't do that. So we went from an in-person weekend retreat to full remote with 7 sessions. The benefits of this, I'm going to focus on the benefits and instead of the cons. We reached kids who would not have felt comfortable going away on a weekend, being away from their family, sleeping out for 2 nights. We also reached kids that were otherwise involved in sports that we wouldn't be able to get. We were really good at bonding all of those kids together. We made remote learning very interactive and modified all in-person activities by using many different props that Katie and Peg put together packets for each kid. So they all had the same activities at home. Their meetings, Peg met online for half of the group. So Katie and Peg, they split the peer helper groups up, and half met in person and half met in online, which was really important for us to do to meet the needs of each of the individual students. They also created all new socially distant icebreakers and games and discussion topics for when they did meet in person. Some of the projects that the peer helpers did were rock gardens that they put out throughout the whole community. And in February, they're starting Hearts of Madison, which will be displayed, like I said, in February. Starting, I think, at Polson, it's more like a teacher appreciation, and then hopefully reaching out to the community as a whole. As for allies, Peg and Taylor didn't skip a beat, adapted the training so that it could be full remote. So that didn't stop at all. Peer advocates, that was a little difficult, but we did it. Our training in the spring shifted immediately to online, which was a challenge for Derek and I have to say. But we learned a lot at the end of the spring last year, and we shifted all of our lessons for virtual learning, which we were able to do with this last training group that we had this year. We also shifted all of our recruitment online by Sign Up Genius. And I have to say that we still had a lot of kids apply for the peer advocate program. In our last training, we separated our 2 groups by cohorts. So I had cohort A and Derek had cohort B. We didn't want to mess with the cohorts that the school was putting in place. Our alumni meetings, we shifted all of those virtually because there's just too many kids, but there's no way we could have met in person. Typically, we would have held an alumni meeting once a month, but in the wake of everything with the hybrid schedule and the unfortunate death of a fellow student, we shifted to meeting every week with them. We wanted to keep the students as connected to one another as possible. And in doing so, we encourage them to be alert and vigilant to the peers who may be struggling and that may need support. In our Boys Council that Derek runs, continued to meet weekly. and continues to do so virtually. The Roots program, we've been doing a lot with that group virtually. We meet weekly with them. We did a teacher appreciation project. We polled all the hand students about their appreciation for teachers of each department and created posters using all of their remarks. And as far as stall talk goes, our latest one was on mental health. We decided to present that through social media. So we did that over a 7-day period. And we are in the process of planning to do one of the Wellness Wednesdays. Hopefully in February. We're meeting with TJ, the guidance, and the psychologist next week to see what they would want us to do with that. Let's see. Community service over the summer. Derek and Aaron really did an amazing job with that. We held fundraisers for back to school supplies. We held food drives through the Madison Food Pantry. They created kindness rock gardens throughout the Madison community, which we put out at the police department, the senior center, our building, and other various places throughout the town. My Girls United group, amazingly, this group actually doubled during the pandemic. I have about 27 girls in that program. Over the summer, we did a week-long empowerment camp at the Arts Barn for 4th through 8th graders. We did an Adopted Sisters video with the help of a gentleman involved at the senior center who was actually one of my group members' pen pal through the senior center. So that was an amazing project that we did. And
what was that called again? I'm sorry, that was called
Adopted Sisters. I can actually send you guys the video. I have the video, so it was really well done. And then they also Zoom bake together a lot. We actually Zoomed bake with some 6th grade girls at Polson. And we delivered those to the staff at Yale and also a women's shelter in New Haven called Life Haven. We've done that on numerous occasions, I would say over 10 times. So that's been really good. And then QPR. So Catherine and I are now certified QPR trainers, and Peg is in the process of getting her certification. Catherine and I trained 10 students to become ambassadors to help us deliver the QPR training to other students and adults. Jake and Darien, I didn't forget about you guys, facilitated a training to about 25 students, and I have to say they did a remarkable job. Catherine and I got off that training, and so they can take our jobs. I mean, you guys did so good, and we will be utilizing you guys again, that's for sure. Our next steps in that are to train the students in GASP and peer helpers, the rest of the student body, as well as the community at large. So Catherine and I and Scott will be meeting to talk about that shortly. And a few more things and I'm done, I promise. So some of the new programs that we developed, you wouldn't think that we would have time to develop new programs in this environment, but of course we did. Peg was developed what she's calling the parent coffee break. It's parents of the peer helpers. She meets with them during the day on Mondays, and it's really to talk to the parents about the skills that their kids are learning in peer helpers, but adapting it for parents. And also just for them to talk to each other about their concerns about what's going on with themselves, their kids, really the pandemic, anything. And then she's also started a girls leadership group at Polson where they're doing everything on Zoom, and it's about social emotional growth and learning for them. And lastly, Derek was instrumental in putting together a holiday movie, a trivia night for all the students in our programs, and that was a pretty big success. And I think that we might be planning one more for the community as a whole instead of just the students. So I think that was as quick as I can do with all that I'm
That was
sure.
fast.
I know. I'm sorry. I wanted to get through it so you guys can ask questions because I don't want to be the only one talking. I think that Derek, Peg, and Katie should have their voice heard as well. So if you guys have any questions, that's why we're here.
I know
Andrea.
that Derek likes to have programs, intergenerational programs with the senior center. I hope I didn't miss this, but besides the Pen Pal program, were there any other Zoom or remote intergenerational programs?
Unfortunately, no. A lot of the intergenerational programs we do is through our community service program in the summer. You know, we usually serve lunch with them and do, you know, coloring and stuff like that. But the senior presence, you know, at the senior center has been none since March. But the Pen Pals thing was kind of the substitute for that. And then I'm thinking of, we did give an award to a local senior, Gloria, and we did a little parade through her by her house. So something we did for at least one senior. But yeah, we weren't able to pull together any Zoom or online stuff for the seniors. So
Thank you.
Good question.
Would it make sense just to, because I think Melissa, the rest of our PYD team wanted to have just to say some short things. Should we let them share what they'd like to share, and then we can open up for questions in general?
Sure.
Is that?
Yeah.
So Peg, would you like to? We'll go Peg, Derek, Katie.
Okay. Should have been a little more prepared, but
Yeah. If you don't, and that's okay. I just want to give you an opportunity for something you want to share.
I don't have trouble talking. So just to keep it short, I think the big revelation for me this past year was honestly, our kids need social emotional learning. That's the part that's hard to substitute. That's the part that we're all worried most about. And that's the part that hits us in the muscle. That's what we do. So being able to rewrite all of our programs and adapt them has been honestly fun. I know that sounds crazy, but it was fun. It was fun to ask hard questions about our programs, about my programs, what I really want them to learn, how they were going to learn it, create kits. I have mine here because I work with the kids from here too. Put Play-Doh in there, put all sorts of different things that they can do to manipulate, to do, to make connections, to have fun. So it didn't look like school. And that's been great. The other thing that's been a huge silver lining was being able to have a community population who is familiar with the Zoom format and now be able to reach parents where they are. So designing this coffee break and in the idea that take a little break from work, take a break from what you're doing, and let's get together and connect. I was so lucky as a parent to go to Marge Adler's group, who used to work at Madison Youth and Family Services, and connect with parents who I am still close to, and we've been together for 18 years. So, so I really wanted to pay homage to that, bring that back, and meet the parents where they are. And I think just a really interesting takeaway was parents are really worried about their kids and the social emotional aspect. When I pose those same questions to their kids are telling me the huge silver lining for them is they don't feel left out anymore because there's less things to get part of and there's a lot less gossiping. So then being able to give some of that information back to the parents, of course, without words, or, you know, I keep my group separate, but feeding some of this to the parents, the relief that washed over them just yesterday of just, oh, okay, they're going to be okay. This isn't all doom and gloom. So that's been really interesting to me to see that and add that in and have the kids really want to come, really show up and connect. the other thing real quick is we've been working on this project that we're super proud of. We've had to figure out how to do awareness projects that kids can do in pieces so that they create them on their own or in a Zoom group with us, and then give the pieces back to us. So Katie and I have been shuffling around these big wooden hearts. I have one right here. And the kids painted them. And this is the one for the school teachers. And so what they did was they raised money by either purchasing them or selling them to someone, and they cost $20. They painted them. We all got on Zooms. We painted, some painted in person with Katie. And then that money was then going to be spent on gift cards for the local, to Love Our Local. And those cards, gift cards, are going to go in gratitude letters to all of their teachers. And these will be displayed in front of Jeffrey, in front of Polson, with the little sticks. And so they have all these hearts, and they're very excited, have it all together. And we hope it will also travel downtown. And we hope that at some point you might see it. So anyway, I don't know if anybody has any questions or if that raised any concerns or thoughts, but that's what sort of my broad view of this time has been.
Derek or Katie, any thoughts that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I was thinking, I'm thinking, so I like to start all my groups with a high-low. So I'm just going to do my highs and lows of this whole period, and how work has been, adjusting. So I'll start with my lows. I always like to finish on my highs. So my lows, it's just, I don't know how to explain it other than it's just a bummer not to see the kids in person and have those connections. Going into the school and being able to say, hey Jake, hey Darien, when I'm in the hallway. I think I've ran into Darien the 2 times I've been at the school this year, so that was nice. So I actually was able to say hi Darien, but usually it's 50 kids on the way to the library. It was just Darien that one time, so that's definitely a low. Just the face-to-face interactions, the little things like that. And I think at least my boys council groups, attendance has been down. I know boys have told me I don't want to be on the computer anymore. I was able to have one in-person group for each of my voice councils this last fall, and the kids, almost all the kids showed up to those, but they did say I'll come when I can, but I'm just tired of being online. So I understand that. So it is a bummer that the attendance is a little down. But my highs, I think, like Peggy was saying, we are providing a really crucial part of the social emotional aspect to these kids' lives. And I think that's become kind of our focus. At least a lot of my focus has been on just creating that environment for the kids to feel safe and welcome, and just to kind of help them feel a little bit normal. And just by asking seemingly silly questions, we can get, in a comfort level where kids will start talking about, real things that are going on. And I love getting to that point with them, because I don't think they're getting that a lot of other places where, in the past, if we're in person, we have, this agenda, we're doing this meeting, and a lot of that silliness is kind of, before or after the meeting. But now it's, if that's where the students want to go, that's where we're going to go. We can there's been times where I just throw out the whole plan I had and just, all right, let's go on this topic. You guys are talking about it, and you feel comfortable with it. So, and we have been able to see, a new set of kids, because a lot of, I keep calling them kids, and we call they're students. I don't know why I keep doing that. The students, we got a new bunch of students, I guess, because so much had been taken off their plate, whether they are happy with that or not. And luckily we've been one of the few things that can, still provide some services or some meetings. And, it might've been a low for them that, sports hasn't been happening or their club hasn't been happening, but I'm glad that they are showing up to our meetings, because it's just making my day every time. So yeah, leave it there.
Katie?
I would just say, first of all, I think never more so have I appreciated not just my children's teachers, but teachers in general. I think as we've adapted to new programming and new approaches to programming, I can say with certainty I could never be a teacher. And I am with the teachers here on this call. I'm so grateful and hope that I never have to be a teacher. So I love the capacity that we get to operate with the kids. And I think that the two themes I would say are for our programming, similar to everyone, it's adaptability and creative engagement. And I think what we've done is pivot all of our programs, as Melissa went through, to be engaging and to be creative. You know, she mentioned we didn't miss a beat when Mentoring Matters, when things shut down. One of the programs that I ran was Mentoring Matters at the middle school at Brown. And that week we put together mentoring care kits for each of the mentees from my 14 fifth graders at Brown. And so they had something to do at home during those 2 weeks when they were sort of in between distance learning and full instruction. And the students at Daniel Hand who served as mentors, they also did video messages for their students. So each kid got this kit and they got a message from their mentor, which was really cool. I think this helped. I hope this helped the kids. I also think it helped the students at Hand who we asked to step up and to, you know, put themselves out there and send this message and do a little dance or show them their free throw or something that to kind of show the fifth and sixth graders or fourth and fifth graders, excuse me. I think that it allowed them to rise to the occasion too. So with all of our programs where we have students who come and they're essentially the beneficiaries, they're the participants, but they're obviously contributing a ton. Those who hold leadership roles like in peer advocates on this call, Jake and Darien, and peer helpers, mentoring, I think this gives them something to attach to and be connected to and feel inspired by and connected to. So I love that we've been able to continue to do it. That's my update.
Thank you, Katie. Thank you. Does anybody have questions for us?
I do.
All right.
So I guess the one question I have, and I don't know who to direct it to. Well, first of all, thank you to all of you for all of your incredible stories and services that you're providing to the youth of Madison. It's pretty incredible. It's pretty magical. So, but I'm dying to know, I guess, you know, the kids that sort of retreat into the world of games. How does that work? And are you seeing a significant impact of sort of that isolation and you know, focus on the world of make-believe as opposed to the world of reality?
I don't really, to be honest, I don't really bring up the whole video game thing with the kids in my groups. Derek may, because he has boys groups and, you know, not to be stereotypical, but those are typically the kids who would be more involved in those activities. So
yeah, it's I have one group in particular. It's the main topic of conversation every time we hop on, you know, at the beginning. What's going on in Minecraft or, you know, whatever the popular game is at the time. And I don't see much. I do think once we're in the group, they kind of get away from it. They are still talking about it. I'm thinking of one student in particular who, actually maybe two throughout all my groups. I've seen them like still playing during our group. So I'm like, I have to tell them to step away. So it's definitely there. And I do think it is, they're using it as an outlet, but I think, you know, like anything, it's like too much of something can be unhealthy. And I see it with them, like those boys I'm thinking of in particular, just like really distracted when I told them to get off because they just wanted to get back on. And so I try to bring that up in my groups to talk about it. So we're not like, so they're not like playing it on the side. We're like, all right, let's talk about it. And that can be our opening question. We can talk about what everybody's playing, what the achievement they unlocked, whatever it was. So, but I am seeing but however, those groups were also very into video games before all this happened too. So it's hard to see a difference from my perspective. But I do think it's probably more and more
I think one of the differences that we should be aware of is that if they were going home and playing 4 hours of video games, now they're doing it after having been on Zoom calls, Google Meet calls for 7 other hours, and doing homework for another 2. So it is a lot of screen time. I sense it in a lot of my students. I teach computer science classes, so I tend to get a group of computer-oriented kids as well. I have kids show up late for class, and somewhere in the background is the murmur, well, yeah, no, I was up late last night. What were you up doing? Well, playing video games. So it's anecdotal, but I will say that I do think there's a lot of screen time going on in addition to whatever the baseline screen time is. I think Beth had her hand up.
Again, just amazing to hear all the incredible things and ways that you guys have recreated and rebuilt things that beforehand I would expect you were pretty happy with. I'd be interested to hear when we go back to whatever counts as normal, what you'll be keeping as new or replacement improvements that you might not have thought of had we not had the opportunity to be in a pandemic. Things that you've learned that now you're better for it, even though we all came to it because of the challenge.
I would say a benefit for me is, especially during peer advocate training, evening trainings, sometimes we would have to cancel because of snow. And now we don't have to. We don't have to really cancel any of our meetings. If something happens, we can just do it virtually, which I think is a benefit. But I'm going to tell you right now, I can't wait for us to be able to see our kids in person. I mean, that's how we thrive. I think that we're doing well under these circumstances, but I mean, for me personally, I thrive when I'm at the high school and walking in the hallways. And, I used to say, oh, I have to go sit at lunches. I would do anything right now to go sit in the cafeteria with all the kids, But I think now we're able to do our job no matter what. I'm meeting my groups now over the summer, which I never did that before. So, I mean, there's definitely positives in this for me. But with that said, I can't wait to be back at the high school.
Sure.
I think, there'll be a deeper dive as we sort of move and transition back to whatever, I think you said it well, whatever normal looks like from here. And there'll be a lot that we can take from this. I think we've probably connected with parents in a way because we can meet with them virtually. We probably made things a little bit more convenient. I know, the PTO at the high school has been very well attended, like over 80, 90 people attending that regularly. Normally they get 30 to 40, and that's a pretty well attended PTO meeting. So to have much larger numbers and then to have a video that people can also access as well. So, I am aware of time, so I'm gonna move us a little bit in the agenda. Say thanks to our PYD crew, and all of our folks talked about in general about what's going on, their experiences. If you're interested in numbers, you can certainly refer to our director's report. So that has summaries month by month and gives you also a fiscal year indication of a number of students that were involved, and that's your way of keeping track of the number of people involved. It's more specific data that way. And thank all you guys. Great job and great presentation.
Thank you.
Dave,
I want to,
just want to agenda now.
You know what? I have so many emails that lead up to this meeting, and they all roll into each other. And
sorry.
Oh well, one of these days you'll get a real chair. I want to echo Scott's words, though. Thank you to the 4 of you for not only doing what you do every day, but also taking time out of your evening to come share with us tonight. It's incredibly informative, and we appreciate all that you're doing.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. We're up to the student report. Jake and Darien, take it away.
Hi, everyone. So we have a relatively short student outline tonight, just because like the holidays and stuff, there's not that much time to really be in school and doing that much. So we'll keep it kind of brief. So the first thing we wanted to talk about was that with Valor, our youth coalition, we made contact with the Walden Clinic, and they confirmed that they will be presenting at an upcoming meeting on eating disorders. So we'll probably be getting a video posted similar to Enlighten. But hopefully, this is the difference between Valor and Enlighten. What we're trying to do with Valor is to then kind of create a student-led, student-created form of like a training almost, where it's just like an information session condensed into a nice, easy, this is what we can do with this information that we acquired here. Let's spread it out amongst the student body and make sure that as many people that want to know this stuff can get this stuff. So that's the next step we have going, and we're going in eating disorders because that's one of the things that we kind of have outlined as another big problem with the mental health of hand students. And then we're beginning work on a new project also for Valor. We're actually creating a presentation on what it's like to be Gen Z. So just like generational differences and stuff between, what our generation is going through with technology, with, social situations and all this kind of stuff, just like the rundown on, our differences and what makes us unique. And then we're also going to hopefully include in it also just a little part about what COVID-19 was like from a Gen Z perspective. Just so people kind of understand that, okay, just like mental illness, just like so many other things in life, everything kind of hits different age groups differently. And depending on who you are, you might get a different perspective on this. So I think that sharing the Gen Z perspective on everything, that's all this chaos that's been going on in the world, will be really beneficial for the community, for you guys, and for, everyone really. Darien, you want to present on like your Wellness Wednesday stuff?
Yeah, so Wellness Wednesday has been going on for I'd say about a month now, and my first day back in school was or not my first day back in school, but my first Wellness Wednesday back in school was honestly just so stress relieving. It was obviously it was a nice break to have at home where I could make myself breakfast and get myself ready for the day. But in school, it really made a big difference because it allowed me to just sit down with my friends, be able to talk to my friends who I hadn't been able to see in a while in a safe, socially distanced manner. And I even was able to do some of my homework. And even though it's not encouraged to do that, if that's what gets stress off my back, when I get home and I just want to crash in bed or maybe, watch a show, if that gets stress off my back, then I'll take it. I've honestly loved Wellness Wednesday because it's given me just such an amazing opportunity to, see my friends, and just, it really serves its purpose for me.
If nothing else, it's definitely something that's been really good for just decompressing students, just kind of giving you a chance to, close the computer, just go sit down, relax, go get some breakfast, do what you need to do for the next 30 minutes. And one of the things that we did talk to Mr. Saiteri about was, maybe varying, the different ways that we do it so that, we're not always doing the same time. So maybe if some time, works better for some students, like, after fourth period 1 week or after fifth period 1 week, just kind of like giving some variation. So letting kids kind of see, or youth kind of see what kind of works for them best. And then we could actually get some feedback on that, see what the general student body kind of agrees with. Maybe we vary weekly, and maybe we vary days too. I think a lot of students kind of mirror how me and Darien feel about this. I don't think I've met a single person that doesn't think that Wellness Wednesday is a good idea. I really do hope that, like Beth was talking about, one of the things that has that continuity, even through, COVID's ending, I'm hoping that this is one of those things, because I really think that Wellness Wednesday was a much needed addition to, just like the mental health overall of the student body. I think it's a really good thing to have implemented.
It's also been a great way for teachers to become closer with students. I've seen, I forget the bake shop teacher's name, but I don't know what he made, but he made juice, and it was right next to the bridge, and students were lined up to get it.
Mr.
And
Beck.
yeah, Mr. Becker.
It should be no surprise to Madison Youth and Family Service that Eric Becker is that person.
Yeah, so I mean, that's also another cool part that Darien just brought up too, is it's kind of letting teachers get into their passions a little bit and get a chance to kind of explore that, not only with themselves, but also with students that are also interested in it. So, like going into the car shop and seeing a car up on, the jack, or, seeing how bread is made. That's one of the really awesome things that we can be doing, is by showing role models pursuing their own passions and seeing how much they enjoy doing what they love doing, and then trying to incite that on the kids too, and find their unique passion, what makes them feel that same way. So into a little bit of like senior stuff, we just had UConn exams, so the stress has been a little high, because UConn loves making things super stressful and 20% of your grade. We also had most of the college applications. I know we talked about this pretty consistently. Now is about the time applications are pretty much done. Most schools have already, passed the deadline that you need to send it in by. So, hopefully that's one of the big stress reductions, is not having to worry about those on top of school anymore. But one of the really big, I'd say, peer pressures of senior year is definitely just seeing that some kids are getting into, their number one top school, or your number one top school, you're not getting in. There's accounts on Instagram where it's, this person just got into this school and they committed there, and this person just got in for sports and all this stuff. So even though it's really awesome to be celebrating, other people's victories, at the same time, it's also just like, okay, maybe let's be a little more considerate of the people that didn't necessarily get in already, or didn't necessarily get in for the thing they wanted to. So I'd say that's probably one of the really big things right now that kind of stresses people out, is just because there's so many unknowns, especially with COVID, and not knowing where you're going to school for the next 4 years is just like a lot to handle at once. And seeing all the other people, it's just a lot of pressure. And now scholarships are kind of being brought up into the mix too. So there's a little more competition. Winter sports are starting back up. The CIAC just said that they can start in 2 weeks, I believe. So that's going to be hopefully a good thing for the student body, getting back into sports, getting back into hopefully spectating sports too. That's a really big part of student culture, is just getting a chance to go enjoy yourself at the sporting events, no matter what sport. I mean, typically you have the most people at, the football games, the hockey and basketball games, and like the soccer games, I'd say. But, I think there's going to be a newfound appreciation for going to all sports games, because it's just somewhere to go, a social place to be, and probably somewhere you can socially distance as well. I don't know if Derek and Melissa mentioned, but there's new peer advocate groups being recruited right now too. So we're getting peer advocates back up. There's co-leader interviews I interviewed. I just also want to throw in there too that the new superintendent was really quick to talk about, some modern day things. He sent a district-wide email about, what happened at the Capitol. And I just wanted to briefly, reflect on that and just say that everyone that I talked to about that felt really, really good at how, effective and quick and just like honest, but also unbiased the superintendent was in his message. And it was just a really refreshing thing to see that we're not just, like sweeping things under the carpet. And although, I mean, all teachers kind of handled it a different way, which kind of was a little weird, not knowing which class you're going to be talking about it the whole period and which class you're just going to be taking notes the whole time or whatever. But I think those that did go over it did it in a way that was respectful to all opinions in the room and made sure to introduce that. But at the same time, I think that Superintendent Cook actually had a really good way of making the student body feel a little more decompressed as well, by just getting information out to us communicating with us and letting us know that he is acknowledging that there's stuff going on that's bigger than us, and he's going to do his best to make sure that we're going to get the treatment that we need to just like let it sink in and understand what's going on and do it in an educated way without just first assuming that you know everything about the situation. So Darien, I don't know if you have anything else to add, but
I think you said it all right there, Jake.
in the span of like 30 seconds.
All right. Well, thank you guys both for sharing what's going on with us. You're our lifeline to what's happening with the students, and it's great for you guys to share that with us. So thank you. At this point, it's Scott's turn for the director's report. Unless anybody has any questions for Darien and Jake. I got you all excited there, Scott, but anybody have any questions for our students? Scott, you're up.
All right, I'm going to hit a few highlights. We are continuing with all of our programs and services, mostly virtual, continuing with some in-person clinical appointments, but the vast majority of them are occurring virtually. In terms of a staffing update, the town just 2 days ago directed all town departments to max people in the office at 3 days a week, with the remainder of their jobs to be done remotely. This was done to help break up the numbers of staff people that may be in a department at one time, and to ensure that if there was an exposure, you would not lose entire departments all at one time. I'll tell you that it was no problem for us to adapt to the new guidance. We've already, by other guidance, had moved people around, and we're lucky enough that we have enough space between our building and other buildings where we could spread people out, since we're not trying to do appointments or run in-person groups. But it's still continuing to be a challenge, and there's still, as I'm sure with all of you, we have this in common, where there's this anxiety of, how long will we be under these conditions, and then what's in store for us next, and we're dealing with it. In terms of a couple of recent things that happened here for presentations, I was invited to talk to the Daniel Hand PTO earlier in January. Chose really just to acknowledge and reflect on the challenges facing parents right now during this pandemic. I was kind of given a pretty wide berth as to what to talk about, and I just chose to talk about things that I think were more pertinent to what parents are going through, and I certainly hope that was helpful to people. I got some positive feedback around that presentation from a few people, and with all these things, you just take your shot and try to do what you feel is right in terms of presenting information. Had a great conversation today with a freshman state representative, John Michael Parker. Want to share with everybody, he reached out to Catherine Barden and myself to ask about the things that we might be worried about as the legislative session gets going. There are bills that are due, or basically there'll be bills that are generated from legislators beginning this Friday. And I think he just wanted to get a heads up on, the things that maybe we are concerned about, whether it's from more of the standpoint of our town and our YSB. But myself and Catherine, we also represent statewide bodies. Myself, the Connecticut Youth Services Association, and Catherine is very active with the Connecticut Association of Prevention Professionals, CAP. So a couple of things that we shared with JMP. One is the support funding for YSBs. There are state grants that, with all state funding, are likely going to be looked at and are somewhat at risk in these financial times. So we asked him to champion YSBs in general. Remember his roots, which I don't have to say to him. I don't think he'll ever forget those. We talked about the potential for marijuana legislation to legalize commercial marijuana in the state, which, as you all may be very aware, is looking like a very likely thing to pass, as the governor has kind of championed that. And there's been a number of legislators who've come out very pro in that area. And look, our place in this is to educate our lawmakers, educate our communities. What we shared with John Michael was simply back to the data that we've had and we continue to be concerned about. It's this isn't so much legalizing people to grow marijuana or use it personally. This is not about medical marijuana. And I think in the areas where you talk about the social justice and where this interacts with issues that connect with racism and institutional racism, if you're thinking about legalizing marijuana to help to address those things, I don't know that there'd be much debate around that. Our concern is pretty simple towards the potential impact to youth. And some of you here have heard me talk about this. I'm not going to go into great detail right now about it. This is a huge industry. There are very relevant concerns. So what we shared with John Michael was, we got to see the bills that are going to be put forth. And we'll be happy to give feedback, whether it's as a Madison youth, representing Madison youth, or whether it's representing, some of the larger state advocacy groups that we're a part of. And we'll see what happens. It's one thing to legalize and can understand the pro arguments for that, but we have to do it in a way that's responsible and protects our kids. And the bills that I've seen, quite frankly, in prior years were just horrendously short in that capacity. So stay tuned. There'll be some discussions about that, I'm sure, in our future board meetings. We'll just briefly mention our budget. Nothing new there. We have our budget. Our youth services budget presentation is coming up a week from Thursday. So on January 21st at 7 p.m. is our actual turn. It could be give or take a half an hour. Scott, that's a public meeting, correct? Those joint presentations?
You're talking about the CIP or the Board of Selectmen?
No, this is the joint presentation. I think it's a joint presentation, BOF.
To both boards. Yeah, it's public. Yep.
Okay. In normal years, I would invite board members to show up. It does help to have a show of support behind me as I'm presenting our budget. It's a very boring budget this year, so it's not all that exciting. If you're willing to show up into the public meeting, I still would still encourage that. Certainly, it gives you an idea of what I'm presenting and how I'm presenting, and your feedback and support is always welcome in that regard. So Thursday, the 21st, 7 o'clock, give or take a few minutes. The presentations usually take about 10-15 minutes, unless there's a lot of questions.
Any possibility of sending out a reminder with maybe contact information, how to get on the call to the board? That would be helpful.
Yep.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Molly, probably, but thank you.
I was just gonna say, Molly, help me out with that one.
Will do. I'll put it on the list.
Thanks.
So, as we are welcoming 2 new members, just a shout out to you both, and really a reminder to the board as well. So follow us on Facebook, and I would encourage members that if there's something that you feel comfortable sharing publicly, it does help us reach more into the community and more into the public, that we have people following us and also sharing on social media. Facebook is largely still utilized by adults, less by youth. For youth, when we're more interested in getting them involved and including them with posts and notifications, we're using Instagram. I don't think we quite got to TikTok yet, but I might be wrong. Derek, are we using TikTok yet? No. So Derek says we're not, so we're not. But stay tuned. I'm sure we'll get there someday. But and I think we've worked at a greater social media presence, and I think we've seen a lot of progress and a great deal of benefits and the information we've been able to share in that way. And we're continuing to work on our webpage itself so we can add things there that the community can access and learn about us. want to share with you our work study on our evaluation of our clinical services. So this is a report that's been coming. It's a pretty exhaustive and extensive evaluation of this part of our programming. So it's done, and it's in draft, at least in draft form. And there's a copy I just got half hour before this meeting. I've certainly taken it at a glance. At this point, my job is to look it over as a draft and make sure that there's no inaccuracies that might be, from any of the data that we've shared or something that's just not accurate or wrong. I doubt that that's going to be in there, but I need to check. It at a glance looks pretty supportive and I think reinforcing and acknowledging a lot of the things that we talked about here tonight and what we do. And I think is really, it's a very 66 pages long. It's a pretty comprehensive report, and one that I think is going to be, looked at quite a bit in the coming years when we're asking for things. To that end, one thing that we would like to ask directly in relation to this evaluation. So in terms of getting some board involvement, we would like to maybe convene 1 or 2 meetings and would invite any interested board members here to join us. So more of like an ad hoc, a very short one where we can just have more of a focus group on this particular study, do a little bit of a deeper dive into what was looked at and consider different ways in which this study may support us. And there will be recommendations in there, I know, to do a few things differently. And I think that this would just be a way to get a little more involvement of the board on this particular topic and to do it short term. So
I'd be interested.
All right, Sarah. So I was going to say, you don't have to jump out and jump in, but I'm glad you're excited, Sarah, and be glad to have you with it. So we'll do an email invitation to people to see about their interest, and then we'll figure out what's a really good time. Respect that a daytime meeting for something like this probably won't be convenient for people, so we'll look to do either an early morning or an early evening meeting for that. And thank you. And before we sort of pivot off, the facility study, as I understand, has also been completed. That's a comprehensive review of all town facilities. As I understand, it went to that committee last week in some draft form and is being discussed. And as we sort of approach an open liaison report slot in our agenda, Scott, I believe that you are connected to that committee or on that committee.
I'm on it, yeah.
All right. I don't know. And I understand for wherever we are in the process, you may not be able to tell us much. For my part of it, I just want to share with the board that we are very eager for the outcomes of that report. And, if there's anything you talk about in terms of the process where you are, that would be helpful.
Yeah, sure. We met with DRA last week as a committee, and we basically sent them back with some homework because we felt like some of the output that we were expecting was not at the level of detail that we were hopeful for. So they are in the process of adding a couple little nuances from a usage standpoint, integrating a couple of additional studies that were already in flight that should be incorporated into this study to make sure it's really and truly comprehensive. And then I think we're meeting to talk about the emergency shelter component next week. And then the following week, I believe the committee gets back together to look at the output of the study. So I'm actually looking forward to get presented to. We actually didn't get the formal presentation. We saw kind of bits and pieces of the study, but not the full picture yet. So I'm hopeful to see that soon. And this just so that everybody understands, it's really about most of the town facilities, similar to what the Board of Ed, you're probably familiar with what the Board of Ed looked like, but this is all the town buildings, inclusive of Island Out by as well. So it's fairly comprehensive. Did that help? Did I answer your question?
Yeah. So you're working it out.
Yeah, it's in process. And I guess sort of dovetailing to what you just talked about, Scott, I'm interested to find out, is the Board of Selectmen going to have an opportunity to have a bite at the apple or see the study that you just referred to as well? Is that coming to us at some point so that we
Yes.
have sort of a formal readout?
Yeah, so Peggy got it first, and she was able to review it at least, I think, at a glance, forwarded it to me today. So, it certainly would be up to her to, connect with Board of Selectmen. And I think there was some interest because there was a number of these studies and trying to organize something so Board of Selectmen is not attending hour-long meetings for like 7 different projects.
A lot going on.
Yeah, no, for sure. And look, for the purposes of our board, Youth Services Board, it's important for you all to know the clinic evaluation is really an exhaustive look at some of our programming, specifically with our clinical services. The facilities review is also critical to us because we've been asking, if not begging, for more space, for modified space to meet our program needs. So they both impact each other in a way. So stay tuned for that. It's exciting for us to see these things progress where they are.
Right, wrong, or indifferent, Scott, Madison Youth and Family Services was the example that continued to be used during our facilities meeting. So I think that's a good sign that at least it's being focused on. So
awesome. And hopefully that doesn't reflect poorly on me.
No.
Anyway, so I've been vocal. All right, that's thank you all for wading through that and for most of the agenda so far. And where are we at?
So in the interest of time, so we do have an open liaison report, and since we hadn't asked anybody to offer one, maybe we can move through that one, unless Scott or Jeremy, you have something that you feel is critical to share with us tonight.
We did have a Board of Selectmen meeting this morning, so just I think 2 quick points. Just we obviously talked about the facility study, but we did speak obviously about the vaccine, which is probably on everybody's mind. We have completed stage 1A at this point, which is emergency services, employees, and we're now moving into 1B. So there's obviously a lot of heightened interest on what 1B means and what 1B includes, whether teachers are included in that 1B phase or whether it's 1C. So there was a fair amount of conversation about that. 75 years and older are suggested to go register at the senior center. So I just wanted to make sure I did comment on that. The other 2 big topics were Island Avenue School. The Future Use Committee was a hot topic. They presented back to us in terms of what that use might look like. Feasibility of that building is 25 2-bedroom condos / apartments. But the poll returned that it wanted to remain as a school. They're in the process of considering an RFP right now for that facility. And then we discussed the OLMPA lease renewal, which is the school that's currently using the facility currently. So I think that's probably enough for today.
Were any decisions made about the vaccine? I had never heard teachers being moved to 1C before just now. In fact, Scott,
no decisions, and it's all state regulated. So I think that's the challenge that we're having right now, is we get some to limited information from the state, which is then translated through the health director, which is then translated to us. So
gotcha. Okay.
Some students actually got vaccinated, so it's kind of interesting. We're kind of getting a perspective on it too, because some kids work at the hearth. So
gotcha.
And emergency services too, I think.
Sure.
Right?
Absolutely. Okay. The next item on our agenda is new. Thank you, Scott. And that's there was no place in our agenda for board members to be able to share something that's on their mind that's not an agenda item. And so the executive committee was talking with Scott about this, and what we came up with was this spot in the agenda called Open Board, where it would be a place for somebody who has an issue related to youth and family services, that for an item that doesn't naturally come up anywhere else in the agenda, to discuss it and to raise it and to have some discussion on it. So we're running a little later than we normally would tonight. So I think what I'd like to do tonight, if that's okay with you, is actually introduce that concept for you so that you can think about it. If you have an item that you'd like to discuss, you can share that with us at the next board meeting. But you can also, if there's something that you are troubled by or something that concerns you about the operation of the board, this is another thing we discussed. By all means, send one of the executive committee members, send Scott an email, let us know if you have concerns, if your voice isn't being heard, or you're concerned that it isn't, or there's something that happened that you'd like us to be aware of. By all means, we would like to get that feedback, so rather than have anybody on the committee kind of harboring ill feelings, as opposed to sharing it with us, and so we can deal with it. I hope that reflects what we discussed in the executive committee. I hope that makes sense to everybody.
We're very happy and proud of what we do. We know that we're not perfect. And we know that there's many needs that we won't get to. We get to everything that we can. So this is, again, like, you're an advisory board, and opportunities and just open encouragement for you to take every advantage of your role as a board member, whether during the board meetings or outside the board meetings.
Well said. Thank you. So if anybody does have anything that's been on their mind that they haven't had a chance to share tonight, by all means, raise your hand and we'll hear from you tonight. I see some sleepy faces here. So I'm going to move on. There's one thing I have to do tonight. I have no comments for you in the chairperson comments. I've spoken enough already, but I do have to share with you the meeting schedule for the upcoming 12 months, I guess 11 months. And we need to then, no, it's 12 months. We need to approve that. So I'm going to share my screen, or try really hard to do so. Hopefully you're seeing it right about now. And so I highlighted one of the meetings, all of the meetings, if you aren't aware of this, but I would imagine you are. The executive committee meets traditionally on the first Tuesday of every month, and the full board meets on the second Tuesday. There is one exception to that, and that is April 6th, when we moved the meeting to not coincide with scheduled holiday vacation, school vacation. So that's the only change. I cannot see you all of a sudden, so I'm going to try and click on something so I can see you all, because it's going to be hard for me to see who's doing what. There we go. So I need a motion, I believe, to accept the calendar as we see it here. Robert, and a second. I think I saw Jessica. All in favor? All opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. So there's your calendar. I will stop sharing. All right. That's it. Having no other open business and having worked through the agenda for tonight, we'll adjourn the meeting. Have a great month, and we'll see you back here in a month.
Bye, everyone.
Hi, everyone.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Good job, David.